Hello, everyone. Welcome to Higher Ed Demand Gen Video Podcast, hosted by Concept 3D. Concept 3D has served the education community for over a decade with our award-winning interactive maps and virtual tours. From move-in day to commencement, Concept 3D is your virtual campus that brings everything that makes your school unique to the digital world. Okay, so my name is Shiro Hattori, and I will be your host today. I'm speaking out of Silverthorne, Colorado, which is a little mountain town an hour east of Denver. I'm joined by the Director of Marketing, Joshua Aurebach. Did I say that right? Auerbach?
Auerbach. It's probably your pronunciation is probably more correct to how it was originally in Germany, but
got it.
We say Auerbach.
Oh, got it. Joshua Auerbach from Goddard College. And I'm very excited for you to have you on today with us. Can you start us off with maybe a quick fun fact?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. Fun fact, we moved just over 2 years ago to Vermont and immediately started a homestead. So we're raising goats, sheep, chickens, got some rabbits. I'm sure I'm forgetting a whole bunch of other animals outside of the domestic pets.
Wow, that's exciting. What do you do with the goats? Do you get to make goat cheese from that? Or I'm very unfamiliar.
Basically, with the milk products, there's cheese. Number one thing that we can get out of it. And we're entertaining eventually making a business out of it. Just exploring the opportunities, but for the most part, it's for the homestead.
That's amazing. So putting your marketing skills to use outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the job. Got it. Exciting.
Never ends. Once a marketer, always a marketer.
Same. I completely feel you there. I'm always like thinking of a different angle on things. Okay, cool. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about your school, maybe your team as well? I know you just switched jobs quite recently, right? So want to learn more about Goddard and what makes them unique and differentiates them.
Goddard is learner-driven education. It was one of the first in that model, even well before the low residency model, basically going at your own pace, creating your own curriculum, even within your degree program. What really makes us unique, there's no grades. No testing either. Outside of you're in psychology and you're doing required state testing, but we don't do the testing. So you work with your faculty, your mentors, and basically they guide you through the program and eventually you graduate.
Got it. I'm actually very unfamiliar with the low residency model. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. And again, I've been here, Goddard, just over 2.5 years, and I was unfamiliar. And they led with that everywhere in their marketing. And I was like, no, you can't lead with your tagline, low residency, that it's not a search term anyone will put into their
Smart.
their search browser. So I immediately changed all of that. Basically, what low residency means is that you're on campus for a very short period of time, and the rest of your studies are basically where you live, where you work, or if you're traveling. So it was sort of somewhat the best of both worlds. So it's an online education with a stay.
Got it. And it's right now, this model is for 1 week, and then the rest of the education is done remotely.
Yeah, 1 week per semester.
Got it. Okay, cool. I'd love to learn a little bit more about your marketing team. I know it's a smaller school, right? How many hats do you have to wear? I think we talked about retargeting like ads and how I got retargeted from your ads once. Love to learn more.
I am the marketing team. I'm the entire marketing department. Currently, I'm also taking over the role of communications. I'm the webmaster as well, which is usually in IT. There's a lot of overlap with marketing. I'm actually doing the nitty-gritty for the most part, the actual updates to the website, edits to pages. I get help where I can. But my main function as a marketing director is making sure we got ads, we got content, we're doing social. I work with some agencies for, PPC. We
Yep.
recently hired a social media agency because I did have a digital media coordinator, and we will be hiring a new one. They're changing the position. So that will go out soon. So I will get some help. But basically right now it's a one-person operation.
Got it. And I imagine, you can't do 100 different things if you're just one person. Have you found like certain strategies and tactics that work better for you because of that position? Have you had to consolidate and try to scale just one or two channels? Would love to learn more about that too.
Yes, so that's a lot of it. I mean, typically, I would leave a lot of room and monies for experimentation, but that's almost next to impossible. So we're, doing ads on like TikTok or Reddit, which we still do from time to time, but I can't make a concerted effort. It's more so of a process of elimination because I know what needs to be done. We have to run these ads. We have to, get these people in the door. So a lot of the creative aspects, they've sort of on hold and do them as you needed, because again, usually creative projects take time. You need
Yeah.
to spend hours and hours, and I don't have blocks of hours and hours. And especially because I'm also the webmaster, that's priority. So it's stop the presses, fix this, and so on. But basically, it is a lot of juggling, multitasking, which I do love. But it's also efficiencies. So, doing things that work consistently, and just sort of, if it's social media, making sure those get scheduled out because that's sort of obvious low-hanging fruit. You know, the other good part about it is, again, never to pivot too soon or make assessments too early. Marketing is a long game, especially with paid media, because variables of COVID, the presidential, anything that changes the news cycle affects marketing. So you can't go by false negatives is the one thing I say. If something doesn't perform, there could be a million reasons. But if something performs well, it's got to be good. It doesn't
gotta
perform
double
well
down on
by
it.
accident. Yeah. So look at for what's doing well. Look at for those unicorns. But also don't be too quick to make changes if something's not performing. Give it some time. So fortunately, right, I'm given time, because if I had more freedom and I was more hands-on, I probably would have made more mistakes, because we've seen incremental growth continuous year after year, month after month. So it's working. Could it be more optimized? Probably. Is there risk of optimizing? Yes. So
That's a really good point. Yeah, trying too many things at once could set you back, actually, because you don't give yourself time to measure your results, right?
Yeah. And even, just on a website, for example, we're using Google Optimize and doing the A/B test. You need a minimum of 2 weeks. We're also not a very high traffic site. I mean, we get decent, but nothing for where you have significant data to take action on, and that's where time matters.
Yeah, I've ran optimized campaigns and like had to wait a month for a statistically significant outcome, like above 90% or whatever, which is apparently the number you're supposed to hit when you're doing an A/B test. But yeah, it's taken me weeks before, and I don't know. I feel your pain there.
Yeah,
you want the results now.
It's patience. I mean, that's what marketing is. I mean, you have to have best practices and patience, and creativity comes next. You could only pad it with creativity.
Definitely. Great. I'm going to take just a quick pause here and we'll come right back. All right, we're just going to jump back in here. So looking at 2022, Happy New Year. It's 2022 now. Crazy start, as we kind of talked about at the beginning of the call, with Omicron, schools delaying and pausing again. What advice do you have to other digital marketers, directors of marketing in higher ed for 2022, especially for those that are universities and colleges that are a little bit smaller and niche?
Well, don't overreact, as we were saying before. When the first pandemic, when the NBA canceled, that was like, basically everyone realizing this is a serious thing. And I was looking at, watching the stats, watching the water boil. And the question was, do I pull my money out now? Do I stop and wait until this, comes out? And how do I react? So now, it's tried and true. We know some of the things to do or some of the things not to do. But going forward, I wish I had great answers. There's so many variables with respect to the higher education market, and the continuation of the pandemic, among other things. So as we said, all the stats showed, especially among undergrads, enrollment's down, and that trend's going to continue. We're also, on that whole demographic cliff. So there's that age factor, and then you have the combination of costs and the pandemic in general. So with those intangibles, a lot of people are deciding to wait. Then we're combating against wholly online, certificate-based instruction, which is only going to grow clearly in the tech world. So I would suggest, for especially small schools, stay true to yourself, know your niche, and target that niche.
Got it. I think one very specific, interesting point you made earlier was like the keywords that you were bidding on the low residency. Like, what was the shift, the change you made there when you came onto the team?
Basically not to bid on low residency. I mean, I use Google Trends a lot. I mean, you look at what people are searching at. I mean, of course, we mentioned SEO is key. People can't state it enough. And so it's constantly making sure every page is optimized, on-page optimization, and then all the back-end optimizations, because that's important. And then also content, but that's easier said than done, because without a wealth of content and a consistent production, it's almost more work than it's worth in those situations. So for small schools, we suffer that. Because if you don't have content in volume, it really almost works against you sometimes, because you put so much effort. That's where you're putting all your beans in one basket.
I completely understand. Yeah, it's people. I feel like people don't realize how much time creating content, like social media management, actually takes. And
good content and optimized content for every image has to be optimized. All tags, like even you have to do the UTM parameters on the link, and just make you dot every I, cross every T every single time. Look for the best times to schedule. That's what I used to do before this was pure social media. I would schedule. At one point, I was doing 700 tweets per month among my
700.
700. Wow. Because of brute force, it worked. But that was only Twitter. That was just one account, and then you do Facebook, no more than a couple a week. Again,
that's a full-time job right there, right?
It's a full-time job, and that's why we're hurting when it's like when I had to do it all by myself. It's almost next to impossible, because you don't have the time to do that.
Yeah, it's not the best use of your time. Back to efficiency, right?
Yeah.
Got it. I know you mentioned that since your time there, you were able to incrementally increase the enrollment at Goddard. Do you know like which digital channels or what channels in general were helping to get that? Were you able to analyze that?
Yeah, so basically, for the most part, we knew our go-tos are going to be Facebook and Google ads. No choice about it. I mean, the majority of the traffic, organic is the biggest driver. So that's where your SEO, your content, and all that has to match up. Facebook, because of the who we are and our main persona, we are generally older. So Facebook worked well for Goddard. We've had our issues. We're currently going over our second compromised account, which Facebook's horrible at resolving, and we may go to court against them.
We just went through one round before I joined the team at Concept 3D too. We got our account compromised as well. So I feel
Uh,
your pain.
yeah, oh, it's been a nightmare. I had to get the attorney general involved the first time, and this time I put things in place that saved us, but you're still compromised, but we didn't get the hit we did the first time. But it returns. Facebook is doing, it's easier to get to that target audience for obvious reasons.
Mhm.
But again, when it comes to college, you're looking at especially ours, which is a 36-year-old, basically employed student who has experience. They're doing their searches. They're not looking at college on Facebook. They're very proactive, which allows us to put most of our money into Google. And then we run Bing, which actually is returning really well. We came later to add the Microsoft because we basically, like I said, I've only been there a couple of years. But Bing also lets you, or Microsoft ads, copy all your Google ads and run them on that
Wait,
network.
really? I did
Oh,
not know that. I don't run Bing ads, so I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
didn't know that you had that function. So we weren't even entertaining, especially I'm using a vendor, and then the cost will go up because I have to. This
Yeah,
case,
go
you can,
double.
right,
Yeah.
you can import everything you have, which made it a whole lot easier. And though the conversion percentage is not quite as high, we're averaging just under $100 cost per conversion. Now that's to inquiry, which is pretty good given that we don't have a large budget and we're a small school. So for a small spend to do returns like that, that's pretty good.
That's fantastic. Wow. So it looks like really understanding your audience, which is, the people enrolling in Goddard, what kind of people they are, what age they are, has helped you identify the right PPC platforms to advertise on. And then also understanding what are actual words that you use. Cause I think a lot of times, like as a company or a school, like you want to talk about the things that you think are most important, but you also have to do some social listening to see like what are the things that actually your students really enjoy about your school, which might be different than the low residential living. Is that
Yeah,
right?
no, that's definitely right. And if you went by, pure intuition and you take a guess and you market it on that, what happens is even those, again, the ideology, even those students, because I actually applied many years ago to similar schools, and Goddard would have been a good fit, or would have been something I was looking at years ago. So the affinity's there. However, when it comes to searching for college, you don't do an affinity search. You're looking at colleges. So the terms you use do default to much more standardized, and that's important too. So we mix, we have no choice but to obviously buy, keywords on bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, and obviously the names of the programs. We can't go too nitty gritty into, again, these affinities and these interests. But we do a lot of lookalikes. We're working with audiences. We're buying currently, one of our, going forward to 2022, is using technologies to buy sort of better lists to help us market. That we've always wanted to do that, again, because of our own audiences and being a small school. We don't have the sample set to even our list of our graduating in the last couple of years, because you can't go back 5 years. You need a very topical list of audiences. Weren't even big enough to generate an audience off of. And then you have services like Exact Target and stuff where you can buy audiences, except mostly, like for us, the intent is around if they took GREs and this and that, because we have older students, we don't require GREs. That's not our market. So we tried to leverage that. It didn't work. And then to buy a lot of names costs a lot of money. So we've researched, we're finding, we're just testing out some new sources to see how they work out. Because ideally, it will come down to where we can throw in the audiences and the lookalikes. We think that's going to be the key to increasing that conversion percentage.
Wow, looks like I can't believe you do this all by yourself. That's insane.
Well, you know, I
Testing.
hire professional services,
Yeah,
but yeah,
no,
I mean, it's
still
kind of
crazy.
having some autonomy in marketing has its advantages, because
Yeah,
as it's a long game, there's also no wait. Your decisions can't wait. Um, so that's where we have the freedom of movement, but at the same time, once you make those moves, sit back and see, you know, take your time.
I like that. Your
You know.
decisions can't wait. That's a good point. I have to wear a lot of hats too, and that's one principle I can implement for sure.
Because right, if you're gonna fail, fail faster.
Fail
You know.
fast, yeah. Except for when you get no web traffic, then you can't you can't optimize your page. I feel you there. I know. So um, Goddard is a very unique school, right? It has a different educational model. Uh, at what point are you really differentiating yourself? Because I know you're saying you're running ads, bidding on more standard keywords, right? Is it the website? When people come to the website, is that where you're really differentiating your program? Like, where do people really learn more?
So a little both. So we have currently in the works. So I came there, the website needed an overhaul. So I repackaged it to something that was at least more modern and functional. However, everything that existed, I did, you know, we did our assessment on the site, and we have a reading level of postgraduate, you know, where we should be at an 8th grade level. Also, a lot of those components that where we stand out are buried in and throughout. So we are, in my Goddard 3.0 will be released in the next few months, where we're making the mobile first architecture, built much more for conversions, but also at the same time, and you can see this with a lot of colleges going to this model, where, you know, we have those quotes, those highlights front and center that say more, not this is our program, this is how many credits, this is what it costs. People want to know more about it, like you're saying, and the only way to do it is, again, the whole site's a landing page. That's the function, and they want to get to more information that's available to them. But we want to put those things that make us unique. On the other side of it, where we do have placements and listings, we run with the simple Goddard is different. We just say we're different, which we are. And then there is some, when they get to the website, there's a link and there's a story about the Goddard College difference. And there's more, because we are different, especially when we're fully online. We're going to be like the only online school that doesn't do testing or grading. And, you know, again, this learner-driven education, which isn't as unique, it is shared, but the combination of them all make us unique.
Got it. Yeah. So it looks like you're really differentiating even from the very top front as well as on your website. And that's really helped you kind of educate potential students.
Yeah, we get our yield rate is obscene. In the first couple of years, I think we've averaged over 60% from those
Really?
inquiries. But again, you know, with limited resources, we've been targeting geos and lower hanging fruit, but the returns are there. We would love to be more top of the funnel. I would love if those yield rates weren't quite as high,
Yeah.
but we were reaching tens of thousands more. There's
Got it.
that balance. But, you know, again, we were in a position, the monetary resource, physical resources there, we had to work with what would work to keep the, you know, keep the coffee brewing.
Got it. Yeah. No, that's smart. Some of that more awareness building you've done will probably help, you know, in the future, whether
Yeah,
you can measure it or not. But
yeah, there's some sites there. So what I do with those, you know, because we're on niche. Speaking of niche.com, US News, we paid for it, you know, mostly undergraduates are looking at those pages, which, you know, likely a lot of them are not going to come to us. But when they come back in a few years as a graduate, having known who we are, heard about us, is an easier sell than most cases. As you know, people here think, oh, Goddard, everyone knows Goddard. When
Yep.
I'm working with vendors who have been in the higher ed market forever, and I admit it, when I saw the job listing, I didn't know of Goddard, even though I applied to like schools. You assume that everyone knows who you are, and that's not true.
Right.
Even
Yeah.
though we're 150 years old,
There's such a hard balance to figure out between awareness and like lead generation, right? Like, do we feed just the pipe, or do we actually create and build awareness? It's very difficult to balance, and what ratio is correct, because you can't measure the awareness, which everyone thinks everything is measurable these days, but it isn't. I completely
less
think it's
so, right, with all the privacy rules.
Yeah, unless you're
forget it.
Google.
Well, there's no attribution, and most of our consumers, the majority are iOS users. So we're suffering from that, and you can't do comparables year over year anymore because the data is different. They're not reporting the same, so it's useless.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, I think there's just gonna.
Yeah, so what I say to marketers is, right, really know your niche and go after the low-hanging fruit for small schools. The schools that can afford to market, but they showed not only are small schools suffering, the big schools are getting bigger, and that's what happens because they can afford to get bigger. They could spend and attract, undersell, and that's what's happening. So, small schools are closing, small schools are merging. We're not planning on going anywhere. So we're going to try and keep up the good work.
Love it. Great. Well, Joshua, I'd love to share your contact out. Where can people reach you?
They could reach me at joshua.auerbach at Goddard, Goddard.edu.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for your time today and your insight. Appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the time.